Hi, I'm Teresa Matthews, the founder of Three Dimensional Health, a unique, sustainable weight management and vibrant wellness coaching service. Thank you so much for this opportunity to share with you a few thoughts about sleep and its role in health and vitality. I've never forgotten a news report I heard years ago on TV, many decades ago. It was at a time when Japan's economy had taken a really steep nosedive, and their companies across the board were struggling. There was a young man, probably in his late 20s, early 30s, dedicated, ambitious, who decided on his own to heroically stay up for 3 days straight to try to help his company survive this downturn. And the result was that he died. Now, at that time, I was pretty young. I did not realize you could die from a lack of sleep. Maybe I should have known that, but I didn't. And since that time, and increasingly in this last decade or so, I've really dug in a lot more into the value of sleep and its critical role in health and vitality. Was this the first person to die from a lack of sleep? Sadly, I doubt it. And was he the last? Unfortunately, no. I went and looked. Actually, I was looking for this particular case to talk more at length about it, tell you a little bit more about him, because it had such an impact on me, and I couldn't find it. But I found a number of news articles about gamers in particular who had stayed up anywhere from 3 to 11 days. There were a number of different reports. Many of them died. Not all. Those who survived needed serious medical attention, but it still continues today where people just take the importance of sleep for granted. It is not lazy. It is not reflective of a lack of dedication to stop, rest, and sleep. Our bodies need to sleep to be healthy. Very important processes take place during sleep that simply cannot happen during waking hours. At the top of the list are critical housekeeping chores, particularly in the brain, but in the entire body as well. Think about your body rather like a busy office building. During the day, there's all kinds of employees doing all sorts of activities, having meetings, writing reports, selling things, making phone calls, all kinds of important things. And then at the end of the day, they go home. They go home and housekeeping comes in. Housekeeping empties all of the trash cans, cleans the meeting rooms, the offices, so that the next day the employees can come back and be every bit as productive in a healthy environment as they were the day before. Now, if housekeeping went on strike or didn't show up, it wouldn't take long for that office building to become uninhabitable and for those workers not to be able to do the work that they do. It is absolutely necessary to tidy up in between these activities. Now, and one further point I'd make about it, when you think about this office building, housekeeping can't do their work. They can't clean a meeting room if there's a meeting taking place in there. It has to happen at 2 different times. They can't clean the office you work in if you're in there working and trying to make a phone call, but housekeeping comes in with the vacuum. It's just not going to work, right? It needs to happen at 2 different times. So I hope that metaphor is helpful for you in understanding why we need our sleep and we need this time for our bodies to do work that is every bit as important as the work we do during waking hours. Now, of course, not everyone is short on sleep because they do it intentionally. The classic example is the new mom with the new baby. There are also people who suffer from chronic insomnia. I have a dear friend who's never been able to sleep well. Those people, require medical help to deal with it, and my heart goes out to them. I, by no stretch of the imagination, know much about chronic insomnia. This video really is about people who make little trade-offs and, shortchange their sleep because they want to pack a little bit more into their waking day. And my appeal is to give that some thought and make sure it really serves you well. If your goal is to have longevity and health and vitality. So, chronic insomnia aside, no matter the cause behind one's lack of sleep, if one wants to maintain a healthy body, adequate sleep somehow needs to be accommodated in one's life. All day long, our bodies are like that office building, doing all sorts of busy activities. And all the cells in our bodies are coordinated, making it possible for us to exercise and work, parent, think, create, love, socialize, play. All of these cells are involved in that. And the cells themselves are tiny little factories producing all the little chemicals and things that they need to make in order to make all of this activity happen in our body. And as cohesively and seamlessly as they work together to do this, there are going to be byproducts that need to be cleaned up. And then on top of all of that, these cells also have to make new copies of themselves. They need to reproduce and create offspring so that when they eventually die off, there's new cells to take their place to keep all of this going on and continuing on. Now, to drive this point home a little bit more, think of the last time you or someone that you're close to was really sick. What happened? No doubt they went to bed. Chances are you or they needed more sleep and maybe even needed to go into the office or wanted to go in the office, but simply had to go to bed because they were just so sleepy and just couldn't do it. And why is that? It's because our bodies, under the circumstances of illness, there is so much healing, so much stuff going on, debris and byproducts and so forth. Our bodies, it's like in that office building. If it really got bad and you had to make a choice, if it was just so bad in that office building and it was the choice between the workers coming into work or housekeeping to clean it up, at some point, housekeeping gets the final say. It is just too untidy for the work to continue until housekeeping does their work. That's what happens when we're sick. The body just overrules the conscious daily activities and says, nope, it is time to get things tidied up and do this healing work so that tomorrow things can continue on. Now, many studies have been done over the years to look at the impact of sleep on health. And in particular, there's a whole bunch of studies that focus specifically on learning and memory and cognition. Much of this research is actually centered with kids who, as the decades have worn on, school starts earlier and earlier, and they've started studying the impact of getting kids up before they might want to wake up. I mean, anyone who's tried to get a kid up early in the morning knows that it's not always the easiest job. They want to stay in bed, they're sleepy. So these kids have been studied, and the data are clear. I mean, there's no conflicting studies here. The studies all say the same thing, that when students are sleep deprived, memory and learning abilities decline. And the same is true for adults. I will never forget when I was going through menopause. I was not sleeping well. I had a very difficult time sleeping. And I was involved at that time in a really big pharmaceutical consulting project. I was back and forth to LA every other week. And my memory and thinking was taking a real hit. I was really seriously worried whether I could handle it. And finally, in desperation, I went to my doctor, and the doctor suggested bioidentical hormones to help me through it, plus a little bit of a sleep aid. And my memory and cognition improved immediately. As much as I wanted to go through that process naturally, I just simply couldn't do it and carry on with my busy work life. I had to get that sleep. Sleep mattered. Another example that we're all pretty familiar with is the example of sleep apnea and its impact on health and wellness. Data are clear that for people who, for whatever reason, they have trouble breathing during the night, or their breathing or their snoring wakes them up or whatever, but with their sleep apnea, their cognition is negatively impacted. And this is important enough that, unlike some things that we wish medical insurance covered, sleep apnea machines are often covered by medical insurance. That's how important it is in productivity and how important it is in if untreated, its consequences on our economy would be significant. So it's covered by most insurance programs, which are actually provided by most companies, right? So it makes sense they would cover it because it keeps their employees productive. Now, how much sleep is enough? This varies from person to person. But in general, the old adage of 8 hours enough is probably a good number to keep in mind. And it's also a good idea to make sure where you sleep is really inviting. I will never forget, one time I was moving. I was really busy with work too, but I was also moving. I was stressing out over trying to get everything done. My sister, who at the time was an organizational expert, gave me some really good advice. She said, when you get there, the first thing you do is set up your bedroom. Set up your bed, put pillows on it, make it beautiful. Don't put a single box in that room. And then at the end of the day, whatever you get done, if it's a busy day and you can't empty a box, fine. If you can empty a box, great. But do nothing in your bedroom that isn't beautiful and restful, and then get adequate sleep. And in her experience, what she told me is that nothing helps make a move easier than making sure you get deep restorative sleep every night. And I must say, it really worked. It was such a relief to walk away from all of that, get sleep, and in the morning I always woke up ready to tackle it again. So the bottom line is, regardless of what you're wanting to improve health-wise, be it weight and stress level, a particular diagnosis that you're contending with, your energy, whatever it is, adequate sleep is essential to achieving that success. And one final anecdote. 2 days ago, I did not sleep well. And the next day, I needed to redo a different video than this one. And it took me all day. Now, I'd already done it once. I knew what I wanted to say, and I did take after take after take. Now, remember, the night before I'd had like 5 hours of sleep. I just couldn't sleep. So that was 2 days ago. So last night I made up for it. I slept probably 9 or 10 hours. And then I got up today and I whipped through that video, and I'm whipping through this one. So this is just a perfect example of how important sleep is to help with memory, cognition, energy, mood, ambition, belief in yourself, whatever it is. When one is rested, well rested, and makes that a part of their health routine, everything else becomes much more possible, much more fun, much more enjoyable. If you're really busy and under the gun, you will be so much better off if you get adequate sleep. I hope you found this information helpful, and if so, consider giving it a thumbs up and sharing it with your friends. Sleep well, everyone. Till the next time, bye.